I will start by briefly reviewing the evaluation process for Ms. BALMUŠT. The Commission initiated its evaluation on the 24th of August 2023 by notifying Ms. BALMUŠT by email and asking her to complete and return an ethics questionnaire and the financial declarations required by Law 65. She returned the completed declarations and questionnaires on the 4th of September 2023. As part of evaluating a subject's ethical and financial integrity, the Commission also obtains information from many other sources, such as the National Integrity Authority, the State Fiscal Service, the General Inspectorate of the Border Police, other public institutions, financial institutions, and open sources. The Commission assesses information it obtains for relevance and reliability. On the 10th of October 2023, the Commission sent Ms. BALMUŠT a round of questions and document requests, asking her to respond by the 19th of November. On that day, she provided answers to the questions and the requested documents. On the 8th of December 2023, the Commission sent Ms. BALMUŠT a second round of questions and document requests, asking her to respond by the 12th of December. On that day, she provided answers to the questions and most of the requested documents. On the 5th of January 2024, we notified Ms. BALMUŠT that the Commission in its investigation had identified some areas of doubt about her compliance with the ethical and financial criteria. We also invited her to attend today's hearing. Ms. BALMUŠT, do you wish to make any corrections or additions to the answers you've previously provided to the Commission?
Yes. On the 16th of January 2024, I gave some additions to the information that was revealed or not revealed or revealed partially. In my additions, I mainly spoke about the bank account with a turnover of 30,000 euro of my husband and another bank account of 600 euro. The reason for this explanations being delayed, it was that my husband was working abroad, and on the 31st of December he came back, and on the 3rd of December he asked the bank about the amount that the Commission referred to. At the same time, I received the document and the statements of this account, and now, do I have to speak about explanations? But basically, while examining those bank accounts, I also have obtained the explanation of the heads of those subdivisions of the banks, saying that in the questionnaire, the Commission has requested information about the turnover of 30,000 euro on two accounts. The explanation was that in that account there is only a single deposit account, and in order to have the money sent to the deposit account, they are first put in a current account, then sent to the deposit account for a short period of time. Those money my husband received from a relative that came from abroad, and those were the property of Lydia BALMUŠT and his brother. So it was my husband's mother and brother. We took into account these expenses because on the 7th of August 2011 there was to have a wedding event, but at that moment only the husband and his father were in the country, but the other persons were abroad. Therefore, in order not to have other impediments, he has received this in two tranches. On the 25th of March 2011, he received 2,000 euro, and on the 4th of May, the rest of the amount. Why do I indicate the turnover? Because at that moment when, for example, the money were put on that current account for a short period of time, like 1 month, and then go back to the deposit account. So the turnover speaks about the flow of this amount between these accounts. Totally, it's a turnover of 10,000 euro. So I've sent the information together with the explanation to the Commission, and if it's necessary, I will present it on paper copy, on hard copy. As about the account of 600 euro, it was open when needed to go abroad, when he needed to have the visa to travel to Italy, and at that moment there was a mandatory condition for having the visa provided to have a bank account with an amount not going beyond 5,000 euro, 500 euro, sorry. So this was money of our family. I also sent you a copy from the foreign passport of my husband, saying that, or proving that on that date he opened the account, and on the 7th of August or something like that, he received the visa.
Thank you. And those documents you have sent to the Commission through the Secretariat?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Well, thank you for the additional information. I suspect we will have some questions on those topics later. Let me ask, are the answers to the ethics questionnaire that you returned on the 4th of September 2023 still accurate as of today?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Members of the Commission will now ask you additional questions. We will try to keep our questions short and to the point. We ask that you similarly try to keep your answers short and to the point as well. Commission Member Lavly Perling will begin the questions.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Svetlana BALMUŠ. We would like to ask from you about 6 topics. First of all, about inexplicable wealth. The second, suspicious income. The third topic will be unclear source of funds of repayment of loans. Thank you for the documents, additional documents and information. The fourth topic, it will be income of you and your husband as lawyers. The fifth topic will be right to use of real estate. We say the apartment of your grandmother. And the sixth one, this is human court right cases and about your role in some cases. But first of all, let's talk about inexplicable wealth. According to the analysis of income and expenses of you, Commission identified a negative balance of minus 30,459 lays in 2012 and 24,534 lays in 2013 and 411,018 lay in 2021. So the total amount of a negative balance accumulated during the evaluation period is 466,011 lays. As 2012 and 2013 is below the threshold by the law, then let's talk about the year 2021. But first of all, in your second round, you answered that you consider that the information presented by our Commission is not correct. Please, could you clarify now in shortly what exactly? It's not necessary to use the numbers, just with your own words. What is for you is not correct?
I am sorry that I have used the expression not correct, but I still believe I need an explanation about the figures included in the declaration of assets and personal interests. In 2022, in March, I have submitted a declaration of assets and personal interests for 2021, the annual declaration, as a member of CSP. At the same time, I've also reflected the incomes for 2021. At the same time, in March, I submitted another declaration after being appointed as a member in the Council of Integrity. And in that declaration, or from that declaration, basically it's coming the confusion, because the declaration coming from the appointment, I have reflected the incomes or the amounts that I had at the moment when the declaration was completed or filled out. This is why it derives a higher balance than in the annual declaration. Why did I fill out the declaration by consulting also an inspector of integrity? Because I was at that moment already assigned as a member of this board of integrity. It's just that I wanted to have it as maximum transparent as possible and accordingly to the law. So I called my husband, and he told me that in his salary account he had 7,000 euro, which I reflected as savings. And this was my error, because this actually had to be shown in another section of that declaration.
As I understand, the different amounts in different declarations. Is it correct?
Da.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. And we talk about the income of your husband.
Da.
Thank you
Yes.
very much. But what is your opinion? What is, in your opinion, the final balance between income and outcome if we talk about 2021? If you don't know a very concrete number, you just say approximately.
As about the balance from 2021, in regards to the sources used for the repayment of the apartment that was bought, in discussions with my husband, for the last installment that we made to repay, my husband has used part of the sources coming from a colleague of him from the workplace. This is why we have this balance. For the other, everything is reflected. All the incomes or the expenses were reflected accordingly. If I may, there is another clarification related to the expenses for the family members or of the family members, because I believe this is not such a high amount, because for the family expenses in 2021 were only for me and my daughter, because we are living here in the city. My son was living at that time in a residence hall in Bucharest, and the expenses, I don't think so. I don't think these are included. So this 161,000, it's not really reflected. It's not real.
Okay. In your 5-year declaration, you declared yes to the Commission 0 declared expenses incurred in 2021 for your family. We talk about 5 years declarations, yeah? And in your 2021, yes, that's true, in NIA declaration, you reported 278,000 lei cash savings held at the end of a year. In this year, in 2021, your family paid for a new apartment, about 404,200 leis. Yes. And at the same time, your income of your family was 433,611 leis. And now my question, could you please explain shortly how it was possible to live in 2021 without declared expenses, have savings by the end of a year 278,000, and buy at the same year an apartment when as I said, your income of your family was 433,611 lei. So please describe shortly how it was possible.
Those savings come not from 2021, but those were accumulated during time. And the final savings, I explained that I presented them in 2022 when I was appointed in the position. So it includes the incomes for the first quarter of 2022.
Yes, I talk about 2021 in the beginning of the year. But my next question, so, but still, would you like add something about your lifestyle or how it was possible to live?
I don't know if it is worth to describe the lifestyle, but all the colleagues and all the people know that we don't have a luxurious style of life. We have a medium type or style of life, an average. We don't have luxurious vehicles, and we don't change them very often, and we are making minimum expenses only for the basic needs. This is our lifestyle. We did not go for holidays, especially since the pandemic started. We did not go for holidays, and before the pandemic, we used to go for holidays only in Ukraine.
Okay, one more clarification. In your second round, you mentioned that your family cash savings in the beginning of 2021 were, and now I use your words, less than 80,000. Could you clarify, please, what does it mean? What was the amount? What does it mean for you, less than 80,000?
The savings in lei were gathered thanks to the incomes of my husband. He used to come to the country and he used to go to the stomatologist, for example. And when he exchanged the money, there's something that was left. Sometimes he would go to the doctor. He needed a small amount for some interventions. So he exchanged some money, but he gave up. He didn't go to the stomatologist because he was called out of the blue to work. So the money stayed in the household. So they were exchanged from euro to lei. I don't know exactly the figure because they say it was approximately 55 or 65. I know that in one summer he exchanged 3,000 euros to finalize his work at the interventions in the stomatologist. That meant approximately 50,000 lei.
You mentioned that your husband took loan from colleague.
He didn't take a loan.
You just said 5 minutes ago it?
Yes, so he used this money. He took it for a short term.
What does it mean, use the money?
So in a very short deadline, he returned the money that he used. So after analyzing...
This is loan. If you take money from someone.
Da,
Yeah, and you use it.
Eu asta cunosc.
Yes, I know
Noi
this,
trăim, el locuiește, cum
but
locuiește? El muncește pe
he
psihotare, noi
works
comunicăm la
abroad,
telefon.
we communicate by
Și când a
phone.
venit acasă și noi
And
am
when
luat
he
tabelul
came
ăsta și l-am
home and
discutat,
we looked at the
au
table
apărut
and
și o mulțime
analyzed it,
neclarități, anume legate
there were
de
some
excedentul ăsta
unclarities
care se
regarding
vorbește.
this negative balance.
I ask about the
Or
loan. Who was the
positive.
colleague and is the loan declared in somewhere?
Nu, el nu a fost declarat. Eu de el
No, it was not declared. I found out recently when we saw this discrepancy.
Who was the colleague?
Ulinici Vasile.
Ulinici Vasile.
And what was the amount of the loan?
În jur de 3.000 de euro.
Approximately
În următoarea
3,000
lună i-a
euros
întors.
because he repaid this in the following month.
What was the short period?
În ianuarie-februarie 2020.
January, February 2022.
Thank you. No question about inexplicable valve.
Mulțumesc. Doamna Svetlana, câteva întrebări privind clarificarea
Madam
datei
Svetlana,
pe anul
some
2021.
questions about the
Comisia
clarifications on the data for
are nevoie
2021. The Commission
de date concrete
needs
pentru a
specific
fixa
data in
calculul
order to finalize
veniturilor și
the calculation
cheltuielilor
for
pentru
the
anul
incomes and
2021.
expenses for 2021.
Vreau să explicați Comisiei care au
Could you
fost
please explain to the
economiile
Commission what were your
la începutul
savings
anului
at the beginning
2021
of 2021
împreună cu soțul?
together with your husband?
În jur de 3
Approximately 3,000 euros, 3-4,000 euros.
Și la finele anului,
And at the end of the
cum ați
year,
explicat,
as you
aceste economii de
explained,
278.000
these economies
erau
of
către venituri
278,000
care
were
le-ați înregistrat
incomes
și le-ați
that
declarat la
you
mijlocul
registered
anului, când ați
and
devenit
declared at
membru a
at
CSP.
half year when you became member of CSP.
la începutul
In
22.
2022, at the beginning of 2022, they were
Și am
declared.
declarat la zi, ceea ce
And
mi-a spus.
I
A
declared
spus că are 7.000
what
de euro
was
pe
at
card.
that date. He said he had 7,000 on card, and you said it was exchanged it and said it was 278 at the end of the year.
Și cu economiile anterioare.
So this includes the previous savings.
Din venitul pe anul 2021,
Out of the income
ați utilizat
for
careva
2021, did you
mijloace
use
pentru achitarea
any financial means
apartamentului?
to pay for the
Sau fost din
apartment,
economiei anterioare?
or was this done based on previous savings? It was both previous savings and the income from
Puteți
2021.
să spuneți o pondere
Could you
care
tell us what was the share, or the share from the incomes and the share from the savings?
din 404.000 de
Out of
exemplu,
those
a fost jumătate dat în
404,000,
economii sau mai multe,
half was
mai
out of
puțin jumătate?
savings or less than half?
Economiile, eu cred că erau
I think
până la
that the
100.000
savings
de
were
lei.
up to 100,000
Până la,
lei.
plus minus. Eu nu
More
cred
or
că
less,
Și
I
restul a fost din
can't
venitul
remember now.
înregistrat pe anul
And
2020.
the rest was out of the income for 2021. For the rest, I used to call my husband. I was saying this was, I will have this deadline, and part was transmitted through his aunt, and the rest was brought personally to the bank. So we went to Iași together. We had the bank statement taken because these transfers are not made until you can prove the provenience of the money.
Dumneavoastră ați menționat că
You
în anul
mentioned that
2021
in
nu ați
2021
fost, patru membri
there
în
were
familie
not
pentru a
four
fi
members
calculat cu
in the
cheltuielile
family
de consum,
so that you can calculate the expenses on the territory of the Republic of Moldova. Now there were two of us.
O fiică era peste hotare.
One
și
of your
soțul
daughters
acolo.
was abroad, and the husband, yes. My son, yes. So he used to live, the son used to live in a dormitory, student's dormitory.
S-a aflat permanent peste hotare.
He was all the time abroad. Yes, the son was living abroad. He was all the time abroad, and so was the husband.
Mulțumesc. Mai multe întrebări nu am.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Follow-up question by Mr. Beadle.
Da, referitor la circumstanțele pe care
Regarding
le-ați
the
descris
circumstances that you
justificând
described
necesitatea de a modifica calculul consumului
as a
pentru
justification to
populație,
change
având în
the
vedere
calculations
membrilor
for the
familiei.
expenses
Fiul dumneavoastră
based on
a
the fact that
studii liceale
the members of
sau
the family were abroad.
superioare?
Your son
timpul
was
verii
at
trăiești
high school
tot
or
în
university? Is
Ieri au plecat tot la
university.
participare și
Is he now also living abroad? Yes, he used to live with his father abroad and
Dumneavoastră
work
s-a aflat
there.
dumneavoastră la întreținere, fiul
But
dumneavoastră.
are you supporting
Ca fiind
him
student.
Noi îl
as a
ajutăm,
student?
dar nu îl
We are helping
Noi îl
him,
ajutăm
but
și el
we
și
are,
acum
he's not
lucrează.
dependent on us.
Și vara, în
And
fiecare
he's
vară,
working,
lucrează,
and
lucrează
each
de
summer he
tatăl.
used to work, he used to
Ați
go
putea
with
să
his
evaluați
father.
care ar fi mărimea anuală a ajutorului financiar
Could you tell
pe
us
care dumneavoastră,
what
ca
is
părinți,
the
îl
size
acordați?
of the financial support that you give annually as parents?
Da. Adică dacă ar fi să
I
recalculăm
mean, if we were to
înlocuim
change the calculations and to replace
stabilite de
data
Biroul Național de Statistică cu niște cifre
from
alternative pe care
the
dumneavoastră le
NBS
estimați
with
că ar fi
the data that you estimate would be correct. I think 10,000 lei, not
Și
more.
asta e exprimat în produse.
And this is for food. I mean, this was given in food.
Nu mai am întrebări.
Thank you. No other questions.
About inexplicable wealth. Okay, when I continue. The second topic is suspicious income. In 2020, accumulated amount 2,140 euros was transferred to you. And the transfers are not included in declaration submitted to ANI as income received in the form of donations, and these are not included in the 2020 declaration as income or donation, nor in the tax return for the same year. Do you agree? Thank you. And according to the questions, you indicated that all the bank transfer amount were used for expenses in legal proceedings and to be transferred to other persons. Could you please specify which specific expenses in legal proceeding we talk about? This is, as I understand, the divorce case of your relatives. But please, specific expenses of legal proceedings, where you use the money, how you use the money.
La subiectul respectiv, eu am expediat și copiile actelor.
I have sent the copies of documents for this, so I paid for the state tax.
Yeah.
Da, da.
Yes.
S-a achitat
So
expertiza.
the expertise.
But what was the state
Cheltuielile-
fee? What was the amount of a state fee?
12.000 de lei.
12,000 lei.
How much time you spent for this case? Could you clarify, please?
Eu am formulat cerere de chemare în judecată.
I
Am
sent
fost vizibil la
summon.
sediul
I went several times
judecătorii
to
care erau competente.
the court, competent
Am,
court.
oferit suport pentru
I
inginerii
offered
cadastrali
support for the cadastral engineer,
și am achitat serviciile
and I
inginerului
paid
cadastral. Am fost
for the
3
services
ori
of
deplasată
the
de
cadastral
mine.
engineer.
Și
I
atât
went
banii
3
au fost
times.
utilizați pentru drum,
So
pentru
the money
deplasare, pentru,
was used for travel, for
inginerul
the
cadastral.
cadastral engineer.
Am fost și am achitat
I paid for alimony, the arrears for alimony, inclusively the state tax.
Eu am anexat
So
copia
I
actelor,
annexed the copies of the documents,
însă a rămas ca
But
să evaluez la finele
I had
cazului,
to
da,
assess
dacă
at the
nu
end
o
of
să fie
the case whether she will be
dacă urma să mai achite ceva, pentru că
She
eu,
should have
pentru
paid
servicii
something
de
additional.
avocat, nu am încasat nimic,
Because
absolut.
for
Toate
my tax fees, I
cheltuielile au
didn't
fost suportate
receive anything.
doar
All the
în interes
expenses
persoanei
were
respective.
incurred only in the interest of that person.
How far is the court where you went? As I understand, it wasn't in Chisinau. Yeah.
Nu în Chișinău, e vreo 100
No,
și ceva
I think
kilometri.
it's approximately 100 kilometers, maybe even 200.
And how many times it was necessary to go to hearings or court sessions?
De vreo 6-7 ori la sigur.
Approximately 6-7 times for sure.
6-7 times 100 or 200 kilometers. That means whole day, yeah? And it was free.
E 200 doar într-o direcție. Nu,
200
deplasarea
one way.
a fost din contul banilor primiți. Și au fost din contul
This was paid using the money that I received. This was paid by the relatives.
And you did it pro bono.
Nu, noi am discutat.
No, we discussed. I explained that this is a case of sharing splitting the goods, and at the end of the case, I will present the value or of the services, and she will pay for these services. But she hasn't paid as of now. And after I suspended my license, so I've taken all these documents from them because I given the documents back when I suspended my activity. I sent the full set of documents to the lady, and she sent me back everything. So there were no lawyers' fees that were paid to me.
Okay, as I understand, they paid for services, but you worked pro bono.
Ei au achitat doar deplasări.
They only paid for the travel. So I went there, I paid for the bailiff. So everything that I explained, that's what happened.
Thank you. Would you like to ask about
No.
suspicious income? Yeah.
Da. Ca să avem un tablou mai clar.
In order to have a more clear picture, so the money was for auxiliary services, the expertise and the state tax, and your services should have been paid at the end of the procedure. And for the travel, because this is a full day of work, even if the hearing is postponed or takes 10 minutes, it's anyway 400 kilometers in total, if we are discussing about Droghia, I think. And one clarification was how did you do this travel and how did the client or the relatives of your client pay for this travel? I used to use my own car, and in the morning one of her cousins came and gave me the money for gas. Sometimes we would meet in the gas station. How much did they pay for each day of travel? 300, 400 lei for the gas.
Mulțumesc, nu mai am întrebări.
Let's talk about now about the loan, about the repayment of a loan, 10,000 euros. 2011. You just provided us some additional document. Thank you. Could you please tell us now, because as you know, during the evaluation process, after the first round of questions, after the second round questions, you couldn't remember, or you said that you don't know what kind of loan it is. You asked from the bank, and now you gave us document, and thank you. My question is, what was the purpose of a loan? What do you know now about the circumstances of a loan?
Această sumă de 10.000 de
This amount of
euro nu constituie un
10,000
împrumut.
euros is not a loan.
Suma de 10.000 de euro constituie
These
proprietatea
10,000
a
euros
mamei și fratelui
are the
său.
property of the mother and the brother of my husband. On the 7th of August 2011, they had planned a wedding, and only my husband and his father were present in the country at that time.
Banii i-a primit în orașul
The
Nisporeni de
money
la o
was received in
persoană
Nisporeni
intermediară,
from
la
an
o
intermediary,
în
a
cash.
relative. They were received
Și
in
dumnealui, dat
cash.
fiind faptul că banii nu i
And since
aparțineau, i-a
the
depus la
money
bancă,
was
la
not
meritul
owned
lăsării
by
necesare,
my
cheltuielile
husband,
și
he
pentru
deposited it in
chestiile
the
necesare,
bank so
SCJ
that
și-a ridicat.
when there were some expenses that
Nu,
were
el
incurred,
nu este
he
împrumut.
got the money to
Banii
use
au
it.
fost ridicați sau
This was
scoși
not
din,
a loan. The
contul
money
respectiv,
was
2.000 de euro.
withdrawn from that
Prima
account.
dată
First
și
time
8.000 de euro
an
a
amount
doua
of
oară,
2,000
în
euros
23,
and
25
8,000 euros
martie
on
și
the
4
25th of
Au
March
fost
and the
utilizați
4th of
corespunzător.
May.
Părinții
They were
soțului
used
făceau
as
reparații
for the
curente și
purpose.
au achitat
The
meșterii și
parents
pentru
of the husband
materiale de
used to have
construcție.
some
Și restul a fost
renovation
pentru
works, and
organizarea
this was
evenimentului,
for this,
pentru
and the
sală,
rest
pentru
was for
alte
organizing the event, for the
necesități, pentru a
ballroom, for
avea
other
loc
needs, so that this event
El
could
a
take place.
vorbit cu muzicanții, a făcut
He had the
cumpărăturile
agreement with the
care
band,
era nevoie și care
took,
îi
made the
solicita de frate.
purchases that were requested by his brother.
How it's possible that now you know the details and you didn't know about the loan, about the wedding, so close relatives before?
Când am primit chestionarul
When I
și am
received the
lecturat
questionnaire
această
and
întrebare
I
de 30 de
read
euro,
this
pentru mine a
question
fost o
about
mare,
the
mare
30,000 euros,
deziluzii, dezamăgire.
this was a big disappointing.
Și nu cred că suntem aici pentru
for
a
me.
discuta de sentimentele și
And
trăirile mele în
I
momentul respectiv.
understand we are
dar
not
am avut
here
o
to discuss about my feelings at that
deziluzie
moment,
totală,
but I
pentru că eu chiar
was
nu cunoșteam
disappointed
și m-a
because
dezamăgit, era vorba de
what
de suma
disappointed
de
me
30.000
was
de
the
euro.
amount
Eu
of
știam că
30,000
soțul
euros.
meu a gestionat,
I knew that my
banii
husband
la nunta
managed
fratelui,
the money
dar
for
suma de
his
30.000
brother's
și eu
wedding,
știam precis că el le-a
and I knew
primit în
exactly
cash,
that
nu
he
prin
received it
conturi
in cash,
bancare,
not
nu
in
prin-
bank accounts.
Faptul că era
And the
întrebarea
fact that
formulată de către
the
comisie
question was
despre
phrased
30.000 de euro ca
and
și
was speaking
împrumut,
about 30,000 euros
pentru
as a
mine m-a
loan,
derutat absolut.
this confused
Și
me.
inclusiv după ce am discutat cu
And
soțul,
even
de
after
asemenea,
discussing
nu
with
și-a
my
amintea
husband,
de
he
anume suma, cifra ne-a
didn't remember either.
dus pe o
So
pistă greșită.
the
După ce
amount
noi am fost la
misled
bancă
us.
și chiar, iată, pe
And
data
after
de
we went to the
12,
bank
când am
on the
aplicat
12th,
răspunsul,
when we
noi
received
am
the
depus cererea și după ce
reply, on the
am fost
3rd
și
of
ne-a
January we
explicat că până la urmă și
submitted
aici
the
scrie,
request.
sort final,
And here
e
it's mentioned
30.000
that
de
the
euro.
final
Până
balance
nu
is
ne-a
30,000
explicat
euros.
persoana angajată
And
și persoana
until
competentă
the
despre
employee
ce
from
înseamnă
there
soldul final și
explained
după
what
aceea
the
noi și-am luat
final
pe
balance
date.
meant,
Noi am ridicat datele
and
și
we
ne-am
collected
uitat
this
și
data,
ce și cum s-a întâmplat.
and
Și așa
we
și
analyzed
de ce
what
și ne-am-
happened.
Nu este nimic inventat. Eu
This is
am
nothing that we made up.
anexat și copia
I
certificatului
annexed
de
the copy
căsătorie a
of
fratelui.
the wedding
Și nu
certificate
este-
for his
Eu
brother.
știam că el a gestionat banii de
I
10.000
knew
de
that
euro.
he
Cunoșteam
managed
că el
this
s-a ocupat
10,000
pentru
euros.
că
I
a
knew
mers
that
și în
he
stânga
took
Nistru,
care
după băuturi.
because he
Eu
even
cunoșteam
went
de
to Transnistria
muzicanții,
for
locali.
the liquor.
Împreună
He
am
discussed with the
coordonat.
band,
El se
with the owners of
ducea
the
și
restaurant,
achita și
and he would
noi
go
prin telefon
pay for this,
coordonam.
and we would
Dar faptul că
discuss
s-a
by phone.
menționat 30 ne-a
But the fact that the amount mentioned was 30,000, this confused us.
Okay, could you please repeat slowly, step by step? We understand there were weddings of your close relatives, brother of your husband, and your husband decided to support it. Do you agree? You said that he managed in cash. Where the cash came from?
Banii au venit din Italia.
The money came from Italy
cu o rudă de-a soțului. Și i-a mânat,
with a
erau
relative
banii
of our
mamei
husband,
soțului și
so
a
he handed the
fratelui
money to
soțului.
my
I-a
mother,
mânat
my
cash
husband's
soțului.
mother,
Acesta,
and my
știind că
husband.
nu-s banii lui și nu știe cum o să-i cheltuiască, că
The money belonged to the mother,
dumnealui le-a
and
trimis,
my husband received them. So, without being aware how to use them at the moment, he put them on the bank account, and then he used them for the organization of the event.
Please clarify, what does it mean money came from Italy?
Banii din Italia au venit cu cumnatul
The money
cu fratele
came
miresei.
from Italy with my brother-in-law, the brother of the bride. He came to Nisporeni. He did not bring the money to his house or to the parents, but my husband went to Nisporeni to receive the money from this intermediate and then to put them on the account. He did not use the money immediately, but after. He did not know at the moment how to use them. So later on, the mother told him how to use the money for repair work or for the organization of the event.
But why your husband put it in deposit? Why he just didn't give the money to his brother?
Fratele său era la muncă peste hotar.
His brother was at the time working abroad together with his future wife and with the mother of the husband.
Is it declared in tax declarations as income?
Nu, deoarece dumnealui a
No,
utilizat
because
banii
he used the money
în interesele proprietarilor. Noi
or for the interest
nu am
of the
gestionat banii.
owners. We did not manage
Și
this
ei
money.
au
We
fost
didn't use the money.
utilizați pentru mama
And
și
this
fratele
was
său,
used
căror
for
bani
the
erau.
mother and his brother, to whom the money belonged.
He put the money into his own deposit. Yeah?
El nu le-a pus pe depozit, dar chiar atunci
He did not put them on a deposit account that was existing, but he opened at that moment a deposit account on his name, of course.
Yeah, of course, his name, exactly. Do you have a question about them?
Doamna Svetlana, aceste documente
Madam
primite de
Svetlana,
la
these documents received from the representatives of the commercial bank, my Moldova Growing Bank, have they explained to you that this amount was
În cont curent.
taken from a deposit account to a current account? Yes, so, and I requested the permission from the head of the subdivision of the bank on Mircea cel Bătrân to use his name in that explanation. I do not know about the details. It's still suspicious for me that it's 10 and 10,000, and in the end, it's the total turnover of 30,000. Initially, there was a deposit contract for 1 month, yes? Yes, for 1 month, because the expenditure were not predictable. Did they present to you a copy of the contract? No. I have here the application or the request for the account and the bank statements for this account and the financial flows of this money for the accounts.
careva procente de dobândă ați primit?
Where did you receive some percentage, some interest rates?
Și 29 și 1 euro și
It's
0,4.
€1.29 and 0.4.
Până în luna, ultima tranș care ați scos-o.
And the last installment that you withdrew was on the 4th of May 2011, and the others before 25th of March.
Mulțumesc. Întrebări?
Thank you. Any other questions?
I continue. Could you specify, could you clarify, we talk here about 10,000 which came from Italy. If we talk about 10,000, was the amount declared on border?
Eu nu pot face explicații în sensul
I cannot explain about that. I was not part of the receiving process, clearing everything. Money coming from the abroad, they might also have come in installments because they were brought by the brother of the bride or the future wife. He sent the money to he gave the money to my husband in Nispor in city.
Thank you. Let's talk about your income as lawyer. Your law company was founded in August 2019, but the activity started actually from June 2020, yeah? And during that period, approximately 10 mandates were issued, as you said, where the average fee was from 2,000 lei to 10,000 lei. According to information from tax authority, the law office earned 102,402 lei for the period 2019-2022. And according with DHA 17 statement, in 2020, the law office had income 54,103 leis and 2020 and 48,299 leis in 2021. And outcomes in 2020, 11,702 and 2021 for 34,782 leis. Do you agree? Your numbers all are in front of you. What were the main expenses in terms of your office? Could you clarify, please? We talk about 11,000 in 2020 and 34,000 in 2021.
Mainly, these were expenses related to the payment of the fees to the lawyers, to the bar association, social fund. For the first period, I did not rent. I have taken accommodation, an office where the office of the lawyer, Svetlana BALMUŠT, was free accommodation, free of charge, together with a colleague. And after that, a short period, I worked from home, and only for the last 3 months, I rented an office. The expenditures are, the expenses incurred are those that are reflected in there.
And as we know, you were involved in several cases, but you got payment only from one client. What about the other?
For there, the contracts were ongoing. For some, I prepared the documents and sent the application to the court, but my services were no more needed. For the others, for example, I have a legal entity for which I prepared all the documents, so that when in the end we needed to conclude the situation and make the payments, but the administrator with whom we had communicated was not on period for a period of time, and after that I suspended my license, and this was all. So I worked with ongoing cases. This is why the income was not reflected and no incomes were received.
But they pay for the work which were done?
No, of course. No, because this should have been reflected. For example, with the legal entity, we agreed as following: from the efficiency of my work, from the result of my work, and finally, I should have had complied a document describing my services provided, and then to have made the payment.
How many ongoing cases you have now? Because we talk about one client who paid. more than 10 clients who didn't pay. And now you talk about the ongoing cases.
I don't have clients starting from 2021 because from 2021 my license is suspended. I'm not providing lawyer services or law services anymore. And those that were ongoing were not paid. And I recommend to other colleagues to take care of that cases. Madam Balmuș, I have a few questions also related to this topic and mostly related to the last mandates or contracts that already my colleagues started discussion about. But first I want to ask you, what was the period that you worked from home? How much did it take? How much time? From estimately, I am assuming now, from November 2020 till March or April 2021. And you know what is the position of the Bar Association about this work from home. Yes, I know, but I was looking for a place and I was working with IPRE in an activity, in a project. So if I understood it correctly, you had several contracts with several clients on cases or projects that started and from which you stepped aside because you have had the license suspended and you referred them to someone else. But in that period when we provided the services, did not it entail payments for your services even after the license or activity was suspended? Yes, but at the moment when my activity was suspended, people did not wait for me to come. They had different activities. For example, after the legal ceremony, well, I just finally closed this page, this small part of my life, because I wanted to get rid of it as fast as possible. Well, apparently those clients have some debts to you, and logically they should pay for the work that was done, that effectively was done. So if a case started, you studied the case, you compiled the application to court, you submitted it, this job had to be paid. So this work, maybe partially, maybe in the contract was said that you had to pay at the end of the case. Yes, it was said at the end of the case, but for example, in the Court of Appeal, I had a situation, so that you understand. I had this, I applied summon for the alimony for the minors, and I compiled this application to court, this summon to the court. But the defendant did not pay the money. The applicant did not pay the money. When we met in front of the court, she said that she will pay. I took the receipt from the office, but when we met, she said, look, sorry, I didn't find the money. I just borrowed money to come to the Court of Appeal, even though that in the Court of Appeal, I said that the judiciary fee or the legal service of the lawyer should be paid in the amount of. But when I came in front of the Court of Appeal, I did not renounce to go to the court, but I continued with the case. But after I called the lady and said, look, you have signed in the contract, it says that you have to pay. But I went to the court because it was possible for me not to go to the court because she was not respecting her commitments, the arrangements she took for the contract. Because at that time, she was a mother with 2 children that was not, and she was not employed. So So this is why I went to the court. The trial was closed, but she failed to come on pay. So after I suspended the license and my current situation, she called me several times to offer to bring me the money. But now I don't want to receive the money because I'm in a different situation. But that case was related to two minors. So this is why I continued with the case. This could be a succession of debt, but I do not want to do so.
Și nu ați întreprins, în afară de cazuri din astea care înțeleg că
So except
au
for
fost
that
așa parcă potențial de
cases
pro bono,
that were
în afară de aceste cazuri,
apparently
în
pro
cazurile cu
bono,
persoane juridice,
but
și
in
de
cases
clienți
with
care
legal
la fel au avut,
entities
înțeleg eu, cu
or
atitudine
with
de
the
recredință,
person that
ați întreprins
acted in
măsuri
bad
de a,
faith, let's
nu
say
știu,
so.
acțiuni de a
Did you take
recupera
some
silit
measures
datoriile lor față de
to
dumneavoastră?
forcefully get your money back? I do not look at this as an action in bad faith. It was the situation at that moment. On the 30th of September, I was appointed in my position and I had a few days to suspend my license because otherwise the payments for the social benefit or the social payments are accumulating, and you know this better than me. And at the same time, if this is the biggest issue, I request to the Commission to be a little bit more indulgent, more flexible, because this was first year of my activity after 22 years of my activity, 4 as prosecutor and 18 and a half years as a judge. And if I may make another mention, in the first years of my as a prosecutor, the salary was paid once in 3 or 6 months. So I started to work pro bono even after graduating from university.
Nu mai am întrebări.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you. And now questions about Igor Balmu's revenue. If Commission take into account the income of Igor Balmus according to the declaration submitted to the NIA by you, when for period 2012 to 2015, he would have had an obligation to pay the annual individual social security taxes in a total amount of 22,044 leis. According to the information from the tax authorities, no social security taxes were paid. Could you please explain why the taxes has not been paid?
No explanation for that. I could not explain. This is his responsibility.
Thank you.
Doamna Svetlana,
Madam Svetlana,
dumneavoastră ați declarat veniturile
you have
soțului,
declared
obținute
for the
din
incomes
declarațiile
of
de
your
averi și
husband
personale, cum am
from abroad
Puteți să-mi
in the
spuneți
declaration of
în
assets
bază
and
la ce
personal interests for several years.
informații
Could you tell us, based on what
v-a
information you've
prezentat,
declared this
ceva
in
documente
this amount?
confirmative sau,
Did he present to you
au
some
fost doar,
confirming documents or just
din spusele soțului?
from his own words? Mostly from his own words. But now, when I had to present the document to the Commission, I requested the statement or details
De
of
exemplu,
this
pentru anul
account.
2022
For example,
este
for
o cifră
2022, there is
rotundă, 15
an amount of 15,000 euro.
Cum putea fi
And it seems suspicious. How could it be this rounded amount of 15,000? Because he has worked all the year. The character of his work is like working for 3 months and 2 stay home, or 3 work and 1 stay home. This is why he had such an amount. But from the explanations that they presented with the daily payment of 200 euro and other payments, these are accumulating.
Conform declarațiilor dumneavoastră,
According to your declaration, the husband received part of his salary in Romanian lei and part in euro. And this is also included in the documents presented.
mulțumesc.
Thank you.
O întrebare.
One more question.
Soțul dumneavoastră a depus
Did your
declarații
husband
fiscale
submit
în
some tax
teritoriul
returns
României?
in Romania? No, as far as I know, no. But I'm not sure. Don't know too much. Thank you.
We continue with questions about the apartment in Brescia, Patron Street. Sorry if it wasn't correct, but you know what I talk about your... Thank you. Your family lived in this apartment since 2005. The apartment continues to be registered on the name of deceased grandmother, and 18 years after her death, no one has claimed the right to this property. Do you agree? Thank you. Could you please explain, first of all, in which circumstances your grandmother, who made testament in 11 of December 2002, acquired the apartment where you lived?
În ce condiții l-a obținut?
Under which conditions she obtained it?
I help you. When? My first question is when she acquired, when she acquired the apartment.
I suspect that it was 2002 or 2003. I don't know exactly the year. Probably 2002 or 2003.
You don't know exactly. By data cadastra, the date when she acquired the apartment was the same day when she made testament. Do you agree?
Da.
Yes.
Do you know about the funds or source of funds what she used to acquire the apartment?
Eu nu cunosc sursa fondurilor.
I do not know the source of the funds for obtaining this apartment, but I know that her daughter, this is the mother of my husband, she also contributed partially to its purchase.
But who lived in this apartment?
Noi cu familia.
We and our family. So we did.
Who are your family members? We don't ask the name, but...
Soțul, copiii,
my husband, the children, and the grandmother, the grandmother of my husband.
În perioada până în 2000.
Not the lady who supported your grandmother to acquire the apartment.
Nu, bunica.
No,
bunica soțului tot a
the
locuit.
grandmother of the husband. So the owner lived with us, or we lived with her.
Mm-hmm. And back to the questions. Why you didn't register the apartment?
Bunica, la momentul când
At the moment when the grandmother wanted to draft her will, she discussed with the mother of my husband, and in order for her not to give this to her daughter and then to the grandson, she made it for Sergio. And after the will was drafted, it was kept with the daughter of the owner, and when our son turned 18, he received it.
Your family participated in the SCM apartments at the preferential price program and received an apartment with a price below the market price. Do you agree?
Da.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my question, did the desire to get an apartment through a program influenced your decision not to organize or register the ownership of your grandmother's apartment?
în niciun mod nu a putut
No way it could have influenced it, because the apartment in Mircea cel Bătrân has a surface of 47 square meters. In the documents, it's written 51 with the common surfaces, but actually it has 47 square meters. It has 2 rooms, and since we have a family with children that have opposing different sexes, we had the right for improving our living conditions, even if we had been owners. Moreover, since I work in the judiciary, in the prosecutor's office, there were different programs for apartments at good prices, and we were not part of them. We applied and participated only in 2018, when the children were already grown up and they could not live in one room because they were adolescents and they had different interests.
Merci.
Thank you.
Okay, and lab group of questions related with ECHR case or cases. Yeah. You have examined several cases which were examined by the ECHR, in which Republic of Moldova was condemned for violation of applicants' rights and enshrined in the European Convention of Human Rights. You mentioned that in all the cases you acted with maximum diligence and professionalism, and you applied the law based on evidence. Do you agree? Yeah, your answer. But let's talk about one example. It was 18 April 2017, the panel where you participated issued a decision admitting the appeal submitted by the prosecutor and cast the decision of the Chisinau court of 16 of December 2015, and issued a new decision in which Melega Victor and Avronik George were found guilty of committing crimes. You remember the case? Thank you very much.
Yes, of course.
As seen from European Court decision, they found that the Chisinau Court of Appeal, in its decision of 18 of April 2017, when convicting and sentencing the applicant, have been properly examined without direct assessment, evidence given by witnesses and expert. They decided that this is not correct, and made a decision. In this time, you knew, as judge, the position of human right court, and previous decisions against Moldova, and you didn't apply them. You mentioned that you applied the provisions of law and the procedure, and you mentioned that you took note of European Human Court right findings, but you take a different view and fully support the findings of a panel of which you was a member when examining the case. Is it correct?
Da.
Okay.
Yes.
Could you please tell us what arguments did you use to avoid the views of human right court use?
În cauza respectivă eu am fost raportor.
In that case, I was a rapporteur for the case. When the case was examined, as in all cases, I tried to pay attention to all subtleties and to all arguments of the defense, and the solution was the one that you mentioned. ECHR stated that the right to defense of the defendants was violated because they were not the witnesses of the prosecution were not heard again, and they were part of the crime that was investigated. It is normal, and this is well known, that once the court has had such findings, whether we support them or not, we need to follow this in order to avoid such violations in the future. But in this case, these were related crimes to corruption. When the case was examined, we took all measures in order to examine in a live session all the evidence of the prosecution. And for the future, I think that it would be normal for everyone to comply with the findings and to examine all the proof, or most of it, related to the witnesses, because in the end, in corruption cases, inclusively this case, there is also other evidence. The prosecutor had also other evidence except the witnesses, protocols for interceptation, for surveillance, searches, examination and transmission of money, and so on. So all the evidence has to be examined. In all cases where there is an appeal, so all the evidence has to be examined again by the Court of Appeal.
So evidentiary arguments. Anything else? Thank
That's
you.
it.
No more questions from my side.
Did you have any?
Yeah. Doamna Balmuș,
Madam Balmuș,
de start, din capul locului vreau
I would
să
like to explain from the beginning
întrebările care eu o să le pun
that
nu
the questions
pun
that
la
I will
îndoială
ask
niciun mod
are not
corectitudinea
doubting
de fond a soluției care a fost
the
dată în
correctness,
acest caz.
in
Adică
essence,
nu asta
of
noi
the
vrem să
solution for
discutăm
this case.
astăzi.
This is not what we want to
Noi vrem să
discuss
discutăm
today.
în ce măsură
We want to discuss to what
în
extent,
ce măsură s-a ținut cont la acel moment de
at that moment,
practica Curții
the
Europene care
practice
era
of
deja notoră la acel
ECHR,
moment
which
în
was
privința
already well
acestor
known, was
situații.
taken into
Pentru
account
că,
for such situations,
decizia care a fost
because the
emisă în
decision that was
2017,
issued in
la acel moment,
2017,
deja, cel puțin din experiența mea de avocat,
based
la
on
acel
my
moment,
experience
cauza
as
Dan
lawyer,
contra Moldovei,
the
emisă
case
de
of
curte în
Dan
2011,
against Moldova, issued by the
cu 6
court in
ani înainte,
2011,
era
6
deja
years
apelar
before,
cunoscut,
was
toți
broadly
avocații,
known.
la acel
All
moment din penal care
lawyers
cât de cât
from the
știau meseria,
criminal
o
area
invocau în instanțele de apel.
we used to
Că era
invoke
ceva,
it in court
hai, putem să spunem,
because
ceva
this was
notoriu.
something
Nu era, să zicem așa, cu o hotărâre a Curții
known.
Europene, cumva,
This
într-un caz
was
necunoscut,
not
foarte rar întâlnit. Era o chestiune
a
cunoscută.
decision of ECHR in
În
unknown
același timp,
or
Curtea
very
Europeană, în hotărârea
little known case.
Melega,
In the Melega decision,
instanța de apel avea
it is
obligație
said that the
pozitivă
Court of Appeal
de a
had
audia
the
acești
positive
martori,
obligation to
chiar dacă
hear
apărarea
these
nu a
witnesses,
solicitat
even if the
în mod
defense
explicit
did
audierea
not
lor
request
sau,
it explicitly.
Adică asta era obligație pozitivă
So
a
this was
instanței.
the obligation of the court.
Cred că o să fiți de acord cu mine
I think
că
that you will agree
precedentul Curții Europene
that
sau
this precedent
hotărârea
of
Curții Europene
or a decision
are
of
prioritate
the
asupra,
European
inclusiv asupra
Court
Constituției Republicii Moldova.
has priority
Chiar
even
conform articolelor
in
4 și 8 din
report relation
Constituție.
to the
Și
Constitution,
atunci când,
Article 4 of the Constitution.
În explicațiile dumneavoastră ați menționat
And
că
when in your
ați
explanations
aplicat
you
legea
mentioned that you applied
și
the law
ați aplicat legea și probelor. Când vorbiți de lege, la
and
ce
the
vă
evidence,
referiți? Adică
when
la
you
acel
discuss about the
moment,
law, what do you mean?
știind de precedentul
At
Curții
that point,
Europene,
being aware
care
of this precedent of
normă
the
sau care, nu
ECHR,
știu,
which
poate prevederi
norms
legale,
or
dumneavoastră
legal
ați considerat că trebuie
provisions
să prevaleze
did you
în
consider
raport
should
cu obligațiile stabilite de
prevail
Curtea Europeană.
in relation to the obligations set by the European Court.
În raport cu explicațiile și constatările
In relation to the explanations and the findings of the ECHR, there's no other rule. So this is mandatory for everyone. When the case was examined, we as a panel examined all the evidence of the prosecution. If I remember well, we heard 1 or 2 witnesses, and taking into account the principle of speeding up the examination of the cases, as a panel we decided that it is enough to find a sentence
Astăzi ați spus, cred că de 3
for
ori că ați
something.
examinat
You
probele
mentioned
prezentate
that
de
you
procuror.
examined the
Dar ce s-a
evidence
întâmplat cu
presented by
probele
the
prezentate de
prosecutor.
apărare? Le-ați
But
examinat?
what about the evidence from the defense? Did you examine it in the appeal?
ele au fost prezentate,
Yes, if
la sigur s-au
such evidence
examinat.
was
Nu
examined,
pot
of
spune
course,
chestia
they
asta.
were
Acum,
examined.
concret,
I can't
eu
remember
chiar
now
intenționam să
specifically.
fac cunoștință cu
I
cauza respectivă.
actually wanted to look at
Am
that
recuperat încă
case,
dată
so
decizia,
I
mi-am amintit de
read
cauza
again the
respectivă.
decision. I remembered about that case.
Este una destul de interesantă.
It's a quite interesting
Dar
one.
pentru a face o claritate
But in order
și a
to have
fi mai concret
clarity and
la
to be more
aspectul respectiv,
specific
cred că
on
era
this,
necesar de
I think that
recuperat și
it would
procesul
have been
verbal
necessary to read the
întocmit
meeting
în
minutes
cadrul Curții de Apel.
from the Court of Appeal.
Deci, adineauri ați spus că ați acordat prioritate celerității, adică
You recently
o
said that
procedură
you
mai rapidă, mai
focused
eficientă.
on speeding up more faster, more efficient procedure. No, we
Atunci, haideți să
also
întreb
took this into
atunci din alt
consideration.
punct.
Then
Avem în
let me
balanță, pe de o
rephrase
parte,
this. We have on one side the
eficiența judiciară
speed,
și
the
pe
efficiency,
altul al balanței avem
and on the other hand
libertatea
we
persoanei
have the
care a
liberty
fost
of
achitată în
the
instanță de fond
freedom of the
și
person who was
Curtea de
acquitted
Apel o condamnă dând
in the
prioritate
first
celerității.
sentence, and the
Cum
court
crezi dumneavoastră, când punem
convicts
în
it
balanță aceste două principii
for
sau aceste două
speeding up.
valori?
How do
Ce este mai
when we
important?
compare these two values, what's most important? They cannot be compared in general. It's not the liberty. These are the guarantees for the parties in a criminal trial. This is the most important principle. So when we examined the case, our panel did not have any hidden interest or purpose. We examined this in an objective, fair way, in a public hearing, with the participation of the lawyer. We examined all the requests from the parties in the trial. But you admitted that the finding of the court is correct, that the evidence of the defense was not examined, the witnesses were not heard because the defense was based on the witnesses. It's not that we didn't examine the witnesses of the defense. We didn't examine the whole evidence of the prosecution. The full one, because from what I remember, we heard one witness of the prosecution. I see.
I'm sorry if I will ask some question that you can consider not relevant, but I have only the decision of the European Court of Human Rights and not the whole file. So, and the decision of the European Court is a decision taken by a committee, so there is no motivation about the specific case. It simply refers to the precedent of done. So if I will ask something that is in the file, you will pardon me. In the first instance proceeding, there was a broad access by the defense to possibility to introduce witnesses, to hear witnesses. Had the defense the possibility also to intervene during the hearing of the witnesses of the prosecutor, if you remember.
Eu nu mi-amintesc detalii.
I don't remember details regarding the examination of that specific case. I cannot say how this went.
And during the appeal proceeding, did the prosecutor ask for hearing witnesses that have already been heard in first instance?
Da, sigur.
Yes, of course. I'm sure that the Court of Appeal several times offered deadlines for presenting the evidence, inclusively for the defense.
Yes, but the question is, do you remember if the prosecutor or the defense lawyer asked for hearing witnesses, more witnesses, or here again, the witnesses already heard in first instance?
Nu pot, eu acum exact să dau un răspuns concret.
I cannot give you an exact answer right now. They might have requested this.
Constatările curții sunt pe față.
The findings of the court are evident, are available.
So you don't remember this point? No, just
Eu nu exclud că
I do not exclude that they have sent this request, but
this is excluded even by the European Court. The defendant, the defense lawyer and the defendant didn't ask to hear witnesses in appeal.
este posibil să fie
it is possible to have it requested, for it to have been requested, but
Okay, it's enough.
Any other questions?
No.
Ms. BALMUŠ, would you like to make a brief statement before we conclude the hearing? Is there anything you'd like to say?
Da. Eu țin
yes,
să mulțumesc
I want to
Comisiei
thank the
pentru
Commission
răbdare,
for their patience
perseverență.
and perseverance.
Știți că mi-ați generat niște
You should know that you generated some emotions and feelings that I didn't live for a long time before, frustration and
neputință și de multe, tare foarte multe.
being powerless and a lot of other emotions.
Eu vă mulțumesc.
I want to thank you.
Sunt încrezătoare,
I
indiferent de soluția care îți
Trust in situation, and regardless of the solution, I will accept it. I'm confident. Good luck, and I'm sorry if I did something wrong, or maybe I exaggerated, or I did not reveal things till the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. BALMUŠ, thank you for your submissions and your answers to the Commission's questions. We've come to the end of today's hearing. After the hearing, the Commission will approve an evaluation report stating its conclusion whether the subject meets the criteria for ethical and financial integrity under Law 65. The Commission will strive to complete its evaluation report and announce its conclusion as soon as possible, and it generally seeks to do so within a month after the hearing. Today's hearing is now closed. Good afternoon.
Mersi.